Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier and convicted sex offender whose high-profile connections and mysterious death have fueled intense public scrutiny. Officially, Epstein died by suicide in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial for sex trafficking of minors, but many find this explanation hard to believe. Allegations of cover-ups and special treatment abound, from his sweetheart 2008 plea deal that spared him serious punishment to the malfunctioning cameras and sleeping guards on the night of his death. There is also widespread speculation about an Epstein client list, naming powerful individuals who partook in his crimes, a list that has never surfaced publicly, leading many to suspect a concerted effort to protect elites. This report examines Epstein's known crimes and convictions, the irregularities in his prosecution and death, and the prominent figures tied to him who, in the eyes of the public, appear to have avoided proper scrutiny. Sexual abuse and trafficking of minors. In 2005, police in Palm Beach, Florida, began investigating Epstein after multiple underage girls reported being lured to his home for paid massages that turned into sexual abuse. Federal investigators eventually identified dozens of girls, some as young as 14, who were sexually exploited by Epstein between roughly 1999 and 2006. Epstein and his associates, most notably his longtime companion Ghislaine Maxwell, allegedly operated an international sex trafficking ring, grooming minors and coercing them into sexual acts with Epstein and others. In 2019, Epstein was indicted in New York on federal charges of sex trafficking dozens of underage girls in the early 2000s. He pleaded not guilty to those charges and was awaiting trial at the time of his death in August 2019. The 2008 sweetheart plea deal. Despite the serious allegations, Epstein's first conviction resulted from a highly lenient deal. In 2008, he struck a secret plea agreement with federal prosecutors in Florida. He pleaded guilty to just 2 state felony charges, soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution. And in exchange, federal prosecutors halted their broader sex crimes investigation. Epstein served only about 13 months in a county jail, with generous work release privileges that allowed him to leave jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Most egregiously, the plea deal granted immunity to any potential co-conspirators and was kept hidden from his victims, who were not informed despite their legal right to be consulted. A Justice Department review later called Acosta's handling of the case poor judgment. A completely indefensible plea arrangement, in the words of one former prosecutor. This extraordinarily light punishment for a serial sex offender has fueled theories that Epstein's wealth, influence, and connections protected him from justice. Renewed charges in 2019, Epstein's crimes did not stay in the shadows. Investigative journalism, especially a 2018 Miami Herald expose, reignited the case and prompted New York federal prosecutors to pursue new charges. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested and charged with sex trafficking dozens of minors in New York and Florida, essentially revisiting the conduct that had been set aside by the 2008 deal. If convicted on these federal counts, he faced up to 45 years in prison. Epstein's arrest was hailed as a long overdue reckoning. He was denied bail, deemed a flight risk given his private jets and wealth, and held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, in Manhattan pending trial. However, justice was cut short. Epstein died in custody on August 10, 2019, under highly controversial circumstances, before the new charges could proceed. Graffiti on a highway overpass in Cincinnati, reading "Epstein didn't kill himself," became a viral slogan, reflecting widespread public skepticism about the official ruling of suicide. Epstein's death has become the centerpiece of countless conspiracy theories. The official finding by the New York City medical examiner was that Epstein committed suicide by hanging in his cell. But almost immediately, irregularities in the events of that night spurred disbelief and suspicion that Epstein was murdered or allowed to die to silence him. Consider the following anomalies, which many find too implausible to accept as mere coincidence. Negligent guards. The two MCC guards on duty, who were supposed to check on Epstein every 30 minutes, failed to do their rounds and later admitted to falsifying log entries. In fact, they were reportedly asleep on the job for hours the night Epstein died. These guards, Michael Thomas and Tova Noel, were charged with conspiracy and record falsification for neglecting their duties and lying about it. They eventually struck a deal avoiding prison in exchange for probation and community service. The idea that the most high-profile inmate in the country was left unmonitored at the critical moment strikes many as either unbelievable incompetence or complicity. Camera malfunctions. MCC's surveillance system also failed in a crucial way. At least 2 security cameras outside Epstein's cell malfunctioned that night, and one camera's footage was later found to be unusable. The FBI reportedly examined the broken cameras, but no satisfying explanation has been given for why both cameras guarding Epstein's cell area were not recording properly. This technical failure, coinciding with the critical moment of Epstein's death, has been a red flag for conspiracy theorists. Even newly released footage in 2025 from a hallway camera raised eyebrows. A full minute of time is missing from the recording just before midnight, with the timestamp jumping from 11:58 p.m. to 12 a.m. without explanation. Officials have not provided a clear cause for this gap, further feeding suspicions of evidence tampering or cover-up. Prior warnings and attempts. Epstein was found injured in his cell in July 2019 in what was either a suicide attempt or possibly an assault by a cellmate. A former police officer facing murder charges. The facts remain unclear. After that incident, Epstein was placed on suicide watch, only to be taken off watch a week later and left in a cell without a new cellmate. This was itself a breach of protocol for a recently suicidal inmate. Notably, Epstein reportedly told his lawyers and others that he feared someone was trying to kill him after the earlier incident. A lawyer for several victims even predicted in July 2019 that Epstein would not see trial, because powerful people might take him out to protect themselves. These eerie warnings, combined with Epstein's removal from suicide watch, now look like glaring failures that made his death possible. Autopsy anomalies. The official autopsy ruled the death as suicide, but a pathologist hired by Epstein's family, Dr. Michael Baden, observed injuries, such as breaks in the hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage, that he argued were more consistent with homicidal strangulation than suicide by hanging. While experts are divided and such injuries can occur in suicidal hangings, especially in older individuals, Baden's conclusion gave further weight to those suspecting foul play. Epstein's family and attorneys publicly challenged the suicide ruling and said he did not seem suicidal in his final meetings. These factors created what then Attorney General William Barr called a perfect storm of screw-ups surrounding Epstein's death. Barr, despite initially suspecting something was amiss, ultimately stated he saw no evidence of murder and blamed a series of mistakes for Epstein's suicide. The Justice Department's Inspector General and the FBI both conducted investigations, concluding there was no criminal conspiracy in Epstein's demise, only negligence. Nevertheless, public trust was shattered. Due to the bizarre lapses in security and Epstein's myriad connections to powerful figures, his death generated speculation and conspiracy theories on an unprecedented scale. Polls indicate that the vast majority of Americans doubt the official story that Epstein killed himself, a sentiment encapsulated by the viral meme and slogan, "Epstein didn't kill himself." Beyond Epstein's death, another mystery has fueled public distrust. Where is the Epstein client list? Many believe Epstein maintained a list, whether a black book, a set of videos, or other records, naming the well-connected clients or participants in his underage sex trafficking ring. Over the years, there have been tantalizing hints of such evidence, but little actual disclosure. Epstein's infamous Little Black Book of Contacts, leaked in 2015, contained hundreds of names, including royalty, celebrities, politicians, and businessmen. But being in Epstein's address book doesn't prove criminal involvement. What conspiracy-minded observers seek is a list of individuals who actually procured or abused the trafficked girls, essentially Epstein's partners in crime. Authorities have never explicitly released any such list of names. In fact, in July 2025, the US Department of Justice stated that Epstein did not maintain a client list of underage trafficking associates. This announcement came after months of speculation fueled by former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, who claimed on television that she had an Epstein client list sitting on her desk, ready to review. Bondi's tease led many to expect bombshell revelations, but none materialized. The DOJ and FBI eventually pushed back, clarifying that Bondi was referring generally to Epstein case files, not a literal list of names. They concluded there was no evidence of a discrete client list document at all, essentially debunking the idea of a master list of VIP perpetrators. Critics found this hard to swallow. Almost by definition, sex trafficking involves two sides: the trafficker and the client's abusers. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted in 2021 of helping Epstein traffic minors, but to whom those girls were trafficked was conspicuously left unstated in court. The lack of further prosecutions has led to outrage that Epstein's powerful friends have been protected. As one skeptic quipped, Maxwell sits in prison for trafficking girls to nobody. The Justice Department's 2025 memo also announced it would cease releasing additional Epstein evidence, largely because many materials are sealed to protect victim privacy, and only a fraction would have been made public even if Epstein had stood trial. To victims and the public, however, this move looked like yet another official suppression of information. Every time it seems names of high-profile offenders might be revealed, through lawsuits, FOIA requests, or Epstein files promised by officials, the disclosure ends up limited or the documents heavily redacted. This pattern of non-disclosure has only bolstered the belief that there is an ongoing cover-up to spare elites from accountability. Recent events exemplify this pattern. In early 2023, lawsuits by the US Virgin Islands against Epstein's associates and settlements with Epstein's banks hinted at naming influential people who interacted with Epstein. But settlements were reached without public lists of names. When Ghislaine Maxwell's trial evidence was unsealed, only a few names trickled out, and major figures' identities remained redacted or hidden under pseudonyms, such as John Does. In short, despite mountains of court documents and years of investigation, no list of Epstein's high-powered abusers has ever been officially released, and authorities now insist that perhaps none ever existed in the first place. To the conspiracy-minded, this is simply not credible. They suspect that such records do exist. For example, Epstein's purported secret video recordings of VIP guests with underage girls, but are being suppressed under the guise of protecting ongoing investigations or victim privacy. As evidence, they point to Bondi's claim that the FBI had tens of thousands of videos from Epstein's homes featuring children or child porn. If true, who was in those videos? Why were Epstein and Maxwell the only ones charged if evidence potentially implicates others? The DOJ never clarified Bondi's remark and has since firmly shut the door on further disclosures. All of these issues, the missing footage, the sealed files, the lack of additional indictments, fuel a pervasive public skepticism that justice has been thwarted. From Twitter threads to TV pundits, the consensus among conspiracy theorists is that Epstein's case was slow-walked and buried because it threatened to expose crimes of the rich and powerful. It doesn't help that Alexander Acosta, the prosecutor behind the 2008 plea deal, reportedly claimed he was told to back off because Epstein belonged to intelligence, implying Epstein was protected by spy agencies due to his valuable connections. Acosta allegedly made this comment during interviews for his role in the Trump administration, saying he was told Epstein was above his pay grade and to leave it alone. While unproven, the mere suggestion that Epstein might have been an intelligence asset used to compromise powerful men has become one of the more credible conspiracy theories in circulation. In sum, the Epstein affair encapsulates what many see as a two-tier justice system, where influential people operate by different rules. The repeated disappearance of Epstein's client list from public view, whether because it never existed or because it's been sealed away, is cited as proof that the truth is being deliberately hidden. One reason Epstein's case commands so much attention is his remarkable Rolodex of associates. He cultivated friendships with politicians, business magnates, royalty, celebrities, and academics, a who's who of global high society. Many of those names surfaced in news reports, flight logs, party photos, and court documents over the years, prompting the question, were any of these prominent people complicit in Epstein's crimes? And if so, why have they not been investigated or charged? Below is a summary of some of Epstein's most notable connections, their relationship to him, and whether they've faced any fallout. Ghislaine Maxwell, British socialite, Epstein's closest associate and girlfriend for years. Alleged madam who recruited underage girls for him. Outcome: yes. Arrested in 2020 and convicted in December 2021 of sex trafficking conspiracy, 5 counts, for grooming and supplying minors to Epstein. She is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. Prince Andrew, Duke of York and son of Britain's Queen. Longtime friend of Epstein, seen at his properties. Accused by Virginia Giuffre of sexually abusing her when she was 17, allegedly arranged by Epstein and Maxwell. Outcome: partially. Forced to step back from royal duties amid scandal. A civil lawsuit by Giuffre was settled out of court in 2022 for an undisclosed sum, with no admission of wrongdoing. He has faced no criminal charges. The FBI sought to interview him, but in 2020, US prosecutors said he provided zero cooperation. Bill Clinton, former US president, flew on Epstein's private jet, Lolita Express, multiple times in the early 2000s for charitable trips. Epstein also donated to the Clinton Foundation. Photos show Clinton with Epstein's associates. Outcome: no formal action. Clinton acknowledges traveling with Epstein in 2002 to 2003, but denies any knowledge of his crimes. Flight logs suggest Clinton took over 20 flights on Epstein's plane. One Epstein victim, Giuffre, claimed she saw Clinton on Epstein's private island with 2 young girls, but noted he didn't do anything improper. Clinton has not been officially investigated or implicated in wrongdoing, though his Epstein ties are frequently cited in conspiracy theories. Donald Trump, former US president, social acquaintance of Epstein in the 1990s-2000s, both were wealthy Palm Beach residents. Epstein once described Trump as a friend who likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, a 2002 quote that Trump later downplayed. He hosted Epstein at Mar-a-Lago and attended parties with him. Outcome: no charges or official investigation. Trump says he broke off contact with Epstein around 2004 and never liked him. During Epstein's 2019 arrest, Trump's Labor Secretary Alex Acosta came under fire for the 2008 plea deal and later resigned. Trump himself amplified conspiracy theories suggesting the Clintons might have been behind Epstein's death, while others pointed at Trump's own DOJ. To date, no evidence ties Trump to Epstein's crimes, and he has not been investigated. Both Clinton and Trump are frequent targets of partisan Epstein-related theories, but none have been proven. Alan Dershowitz, famed lawyer and Harvard professor, friend of Epstein and part of his 2008 defense team, frequently visited Epstein's homes and acted as a legal advisor. Outcome: allegations only. Dershowitz was accused by Virginia Giuffre of having sex with her when she was a minor at Epstein's direction, a claim he strongly denies. Both parties sued each other for defamation. In 2022, they settled, with Giuffre stating she may have misremembered Dershowitz's involvement. He has not been charged with any crime related to Epstein. Leslie Wexner, billionaire retail mogul, former owner of Victoria's Secret and Epstein's primary financial patron, gave Epstein power of attorney over his fortune in the 1990s and even gifted him a mansion. Outcome: no criminal implication. Wexner claims he cut ties with Epstein in 2007 upon learning Epstein had misappropriated large sums of money. He said he felt betrayed and was unaware of the sex crimes. Wexner cooperated with investigators in 2019 and was never accused of participating in abuse. Bill Gates, Microsoft co-founder and philanthropist, met with Epstein numerous times from 2011 to 2014 after Epstein's 2008 conviction, reportedly to discuss philanthropic partnerships. Outcome: no charges. Gates has said he regrets meeting Epstein and only did so in hopes of securing donations for global health initiatives. There is no indication that Gates was involved in any illegal activity, though the meetings have sparked criticism and fueled conspiracy theories. He has not been investigated or accused of wrongdoing in the Epstein case. Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel. Knew Epstein through business deals. Epstein invested in Barak's tech ventures. Barak was seen entering Epstein's Manhattan townhouse in 2016. Outcome: no charges. Barak admits he knew Epstein and visited his private island once for a few hours, but denies misconduct and says he never saw underage girls. His Epstein ties drew scrutiny in Israel, especially after it was revealed Epstein's money helped fund some of Barak's activities, but he has not been implicated in any crime. None of Epstein's high-profile associates, aside from Ghislaine Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel in France, have faced criminal charges, a fact that continues to fuel public suspicion. Many of Epstein's powerful friends have avoided any legal repercussions, though some have suffered reputational damage. Prince Andrew is perhaps the only one to face some form of accountability through a civil lawsuit and settlement, but even that stopped short of a public trial. Others, like Clinton and Trump, have seen their names caught up in speculation and public debate, but not in a court of law. This disparity has led to widespread belief in a protected elite. The public asks, how could a criminal conspiracy involving the trafficking of underage girls operate for years, yet only Epstein and Maxwell have been punished? US authorities insist the investigation remains ongoing and that anyone involved could still be charged. In practice, however, since Epstein's death, no US indictments have been brought against any additional individuals from his inner circle. Internationally, there was one notable exception: Jean-Luc Brunel, a French fashion agent and Epstein associate accused of procuring young models for him. He was arrested in France in 2020 but died by suicide in his jail cell in 2022, an eerie parallel to Epstein's own fate. Beyond that, numerous prominent men, from politicians like Bill Richardson and George Mitchell to socialites, academics and royalty, were named in civil court filings or appeared in Epstein's contact lists, yet have never been formally investigated. Some deny ever meeting Epstein. Others admit to knowing him but deny wrongdoing. To skeptics, the lack of charges only confirms their suspicions. The system is protecting the rich. The story of Jeffrey Epstein is often described as a modern scandal emblematic of corruption at the highest levels. It features a convicted pedophile with friends in lofty places, an inexplicably lenient earlier prosecution, and a jailhouse death so suspicious that Epstein didn't kill himself became a national catchphrase. While some conspiracy theories surrounding the case are far-fetched or politically motivated, the core public skepticism is rooted in real irregularities. Prosecutors who cut secret deals, evidence that mysteriously went missing, and the glaring absence of any bigger fish brought to justice. Official inquiries have consistently concluded that Epstein's suicide was just that, a suicide, and that there was no grand conspiracy to protect his accomplices. But in the court of public opinion, those assurances have fallen flat. As one commentator noted, it just doesn't make sense that the highest-profile prisoner in America could end up dead under these circumstances. Even years later, calls continue for transparency, for the full truth about Epstein's clients and enablers to be revealed. With the Justice Department now firmly stating it will release no further files on the Epstein probe, it appears unlikely that the public will ever see a comprehensive Epstein list of perpetrators. This lack of closure ensures the Epstein case will remain fertile ground for speculation. Credible investigative journalists have shed light on many aspects, from the 2008 plea deal machinations to Epstein's shady finances and suspicious death. Yet unanswered questions persist. In that void, credible conspiracy theories, backed by suspicious facts if not definitive proof, will continue to thrive. Epstein's fall revealed how wealth and influence can warp justice, and in doing so, it has sown lasting distrust. As the DOJ itself wrote in 2025, perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves little good. However, one might argue that had authorities been more forthcoming from the start, those theories would not need to fill the vacuum left by silence and secrecy. These sources and others document the facts of the Epstein saga, a foundation on which the public has built an edifice of speculation. Whether one accepts the official narrative or suspects a deeper conspiracy, the Epstein case remains a stark lesson in how privilege and power intersect with the justice system, often to the detriment of truth. The full story may never be known, but the demand for accountability endures.